Film speed, whatever you want.
We're shooting you from like here up, so whatever's comfortable.
All right, very good.
So you gotta look to me. I'll probably do most talking. Brad will probably ask some questions too.
All right.
We're gonna have a conversation just like we're having a beer somewhere. We're gonna edit this, so
Okay, well, good then. So.
One beer, not six.
Oh.
yeah. So, and my questions won't be on the film. So, answer if I ask you your name. Say my name is instead of just Mel or whatever. Okay. So, what's your name?
My name is Mel Sanders. I'm the Associate Director for Student Services. I'm responsible mainly for football.
Mainly for football. So, tell me what do you do? Give me the day in the life of Mel.
Well, one of the things in athletic student services here, the key thing is obviously student athlete welfare, and our primary job is to provide the resources for our student athletes to succeed academically. Now, all our incoming freshmen are required to meet with their academic coordinator on a weekly basis. So my day typically consists of meeting with student athletes on a one-on-one basis. Typically when they come in for a meeting, we're going to require them to fill out a weekly planner. And essentially we try to get across to them, their weekly planner is essentially their game plan to accomplish whatever academic goal they have for the week. So we want them to list whatever it is. If they have a paper due for interpretation of lit or assignment due for an academic seminar course, we want to know the steps that they're going to have on a day-by-day basis to reach that goal. So on the first day, so if they have a paper due, the first day they may want to go on the computer lab and do some research for that paper. And on the second day, they want to create a rough draft. On the third day, they want to type it up. So again, it's really just, as I said earlier, just to create the game plan for them to accomplish whatever academic goal that they have. We'll also sit down with them and we'll review any incoming grades that we have. We're going to review their notes and make sure that they're, one, taking notes, and that they're well organized. One of the things that we really try to focus on, particularly with incoming students, is time management. And it's important for them to have good time management skills. And good time management really starts with organization. So we try to make sure that they're well organized when we meet with them on a regular basis. As far as the notes, and we tell them, your notes are written documentation that you attended class. If you don't have notes, our assumption is that you didn't go to class. And they don't want that reported back to their coaches. And again, we're looking for content too. So if I know that a student athlete has a history course and they have a long-winded instructor where they typically should have 3 or 4 pages of notes and they come in with one sentence, then that's an issue. And then I'll have to work with the student and help them develop the skills so they can take better notes. And for me, that's kind of a good segue to other things that we kind of see for ourselves and student services. I believe strongly that we really are academic coaches. And what I mean by that is that my job is, if I'm working with a student athlete and they lack a particular skill, I should be coaching that student up to make sure that they're a better student when they leave here than they got here. So if they have issues with note-taking, I should try and teach that student note-taking skills. If they have issues with test-taking, we should try and teach them test-taking skills. And it's not just me that's involved with it, it's really our whole office. Typically our retention program helps students with helping them know how to do things. Because again, we could tell a student to do anything, if we don't teach them how to accomplish it, then they're never going to be the student that they should be. So we really focus on the how-to. So we're going to meet with those students on a weekly basis. And the reason why we do that is one of the things here that's really important is that our coaches are part of the educational process, not separate from it. So we're going to meet with our coaching staff on a weekly basis, and we're going to discuss all the issues, or all the positives that go on with the student athletes that we're meeting with. And one of the things that during that meeting, our coaches are taking detailed notes on what's happening with their student athletes. And another thing for me personally that I feel strongly about is that during the recruiting process, all the coaches get to meet with the parents, and all the coaches are going to sit down with the parents and tell them how their son's going to go to whatever school and have this great educational and athletic experience. Well, I believe that we need to hold the coaches accountable for that. And really how we do that, and I'll tell parents this during the recruiting process, if they ever call the coach that's, of their son and ask the coach how their son's doing, the coaches are supposed to know. All right, they should know that, and my job is to make sure that they do know that. So that's really how that relationship works. And again, if a parent ever wants to call us and have that conversation with us, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation. But again, they typically develop a stronger relationship with the coaching staff than they do with us. And so when there's an academic issue, they want to call the coach and know how their son's doing. And we expect our coaches to know, because again, coaches are part of the educational process, not separate from it. And and one of the things that I really love about being at the University of Iowa is that I know that we have coaches that are committed to not just the athletic success of our student athletes, but the academic and personal success of our student athletes. And I'm not ashamed to say this, and I'll tell any recruit that I meet with, that one of the things that, when they come in here, and I always point out to them, and hopefully that everybody in my position that they meet with during the recruiting process can say the same thing. I have a 6-year-old, and I'd like to think that my 6-year-old, if he's ever fortunate enough to play Division I football, that he could play for a coach like Coach Ferentz and his coaching staff, because I know that they will always have his best interest in mind. And I challenge anybody, any other academic coordinators out there, can they say the same thing about their coaches? I hope that everybody can. But I know for a fact that here at University of Iowa that I can say that. And I know that if my son chooses to play for these coaches, that he's going to be in good hands, and they're going to care about him as a person, not just as an athlete.
This is excellent, Mel. You're very well spoken. That's great. Now I'm gonna keep this real a little bit now, okay?
Okay.
So, Coach Ferentz calls you up, okay? Well, I don't know how real this is, but let's say there's a kid from Los Angeles. There's a kid that, maybe didn't have the chance. Loyola's a private school, right?
Yep.
So you had a great opportunity growing up. What he's going against a kid, and this kid, whatever, he's got some connection or something to Iowa. Maybe he's got a cousin or somebody that went here. But he's being looked at by SC. He's being looked at by Ohio State. He's a national high-level kid. And you want to get this kid here. And this kid's an inner-city kid. He grew up. And you go out there and you meet with that parent and you tell him, I'm worried about my boy going to Iowa. All I hear is a bunch of cornfields, a bunch of white people. What is going on with my boy going to Iowa? Why shouldn't he be going to USC? Why shouldn't he be going, to Berkeley or something, somewhere where I know he's going to be safe and not be, with a bunch of crazy white people out in Iowa. So tell me, Coach Ferentz sends you now. Tell me you reassure that mom, you reassure that father what that kid's experience is going to be like here, and is that kid going to be put in a situation that's going to be difficult for him?
Well, and that's an interesting question. One of the things I tell recruits when they come in here is that obviously they're making a decision where they want to spend the next 4 to 5 years of their life. It's a pretty big decision. And, so I tell them, you got to take advantage of all the resources that you have possible to make those decisions, because the reality is recruiting can be a big love fest. Everybody is going to tell you, that, come here, everything's great, everything's fantastic, excuse me, but you've got to find out what's true and what's not true. So take advantage of the resources that you have. Talk to the students that are already here. Ask them what their experience is at the University of Iowa or any other school that they may look at, all right? And not only should they find out information, and I tell them, if a coach tells you something, ask a student if that's true. If I tell them something, ask the student that's already here if that's true. Get as much information as they possibly can. And some of the things that are really important, they've got to make the decision for themselves. Not what their parents necessarily think is in their best interest, but what they think is in their best interest. And they've got to weigh all aspects of a campus. It's not just about the athletics, it's not just about the academics, but they also have to consider the social experience. So when somebody asks me that question about what Iowa's like, and I could only tell them from my perspective as an adult. This is my second stint at the University of Iowa, so I spent a great deal of my life in the state of Iowa, and to be honest, I love being in Iowa. I think that people are great. The people that I deal with, both personally and professionally, have always been outstanding. But that's me. So when it comes down to a student, I always go back to this. Again, it's not just finding out information, but you've got to make sure that your teammates have the same values and goals that you do. So if it's important to you to be the best athlete that you possibly can be, the best person that you can possibly be, you've got to go someplace where your teammates are going to lift you up and make you better. And hopefully that when you meet these people, they're going to want to say the same things about you. that if this student comes to my school, they're going to make me that much better. But again, they've got to have the same values and goals. Because I don't think there could be anything worse than go to some school that you've made a decision and you want to be the best you can possibly be, and you have teammates that's not important to them.
Right.
So you got to make the decision based upon that. So again, it's about getting information. And as far as, you know, issues with diversity within the state of Iowa, you know, one, the athletic department of the University of Iowa have a strong commitment to diversity and the well-being of our students of color here. One of the things that I head up specifically as our minority focus group, where we bring in faculty members, members of the community, really anybody, any adult from any walk of life that's willing to really to assist our student athletes, to be there, to talk to them. If they, you know, if somebody's homesick, to give them a sense of community within a community. So we focus on, you know, what their needs are, you know, and some of those needs could be, you know, as little as where to get a haircut at, or where to get, you know, a home cooked meal. But we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss any issues really that are going to affect our students of color. And so one of the things, you know, if people do a little history about the University of Iowa in general, they will know that diversity has been a long-standing tradition within this university. Think about the, you know, the Duke Slaters of the world. How many schools are they going to go to where they're going to have an African-American football player have a dorm named after them? All right? I mean, that's unique. There's not, you know, think about the Big Ten in general. How many places is that going to happen? So we have Slater Hall named after, excuse me, about Duke, after Duke Slater. People forget about the historical points about, you know, if you think about during the Civil War, about the African-American Railroad, one of the stopping points was the state of Iowa. All right. You know, and some of the things I always find interesting about the large number of volunteers from the state of Iowa that fought for the Union during the Civil War. So this state in general has a commitment to diversity, and diversity in all its many shapes, sizes, and colors. I mean, that's the state of Iowa. I always think, I always find interesting. And I probably shouldn't say this, probably get edited out, but I'll say it anyway. There's an advertisement on the local radio station where they keep bringing up where, you know, they talk about, you know, this is a station for men that love sports and women that love men that love sports, or for women who love sports. I mean, heck, it's Iowa. We don't care. And I always think that's interesting because Iowans don't care. It's really, more so than a lot of places I've been, it's about the character of the individual that comes here. It's not about the color of their skin, how much money they make. It's about their character. And that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about being in this state. And I will tell you right now, in my neighborhood, and I live in North Liberty, I've seen more black faces in my neighborhood than I probably saw the entire time I was at my previous institution. All right, so people always want to put that knock on the lack of diversity, you know, in the state of Iowa, and I will strongly disagree with that. And I will say that to anybody, regardless, you know, their nationality, race, creed, or anything else, you come to the University of Iowa, you're going to find a welcoming community, a community where you can thrive, whether it's athletically, academically, or socially. So I'm a true believer, and you know, my beliefs are based upon my experiences here. You know, I'm going to have two sons that are going to be, you know, raised. They were born in the state of Iowa. They're going to be raised in the state of Iowa. And I feel strongly that they're going to have a great experience here. So for all those parents out there that ever are concerned about their sons coming to Iowa, first of all and foremost, they know that they're going to be in a safe and caring environment. And I think safety is a big thing. You know, one of the things, you're in Iowa City, and almost all college campuses are always going to, you know, they attract a lot of performers. You know, so there's going to be different cultural, entertainment things that have happened in Iowa City, and that's true of large, you know, Big Ten college campuses. We attract performers, artisans from all across America. So for entertainment value, it's hard to beat a place like Iowa City. You don't really need to go anyplace else, but if you do, our proximity to Chicago, to Minneapolis, to Kansas City, there's so many things that we're kind of hub for that you can do. I'd say as a student athlete, why wouldn't you want to come here? I mean, So we've got it all. If you need that sense of small town community, you have it. If you need to go and have that bigger, big city experience, it's not that far away. But you know, again, as I said earlier, it's a, you know that there's going to be people here that are going to care about you, that are going to be concerned about you. You're going to be in a safe and welcoming environment. As a parent, what more could you possibly want for your child?
That was great. You know, I got to ask that because you guys know you get recruited against on that,
Oh yeah, all the time.
right? You know, so it's good. And man, you cover a lot. You're an easy interview. It's like ask one question, bang. It's like
Well, you know, I mean,
usually I'm like, you know, pulling it out of everybody, and you're just like, you're great.
Well, the reality is, I mean, we meet with recruits, you know, on pretty much a weekly basis. And
Well, tell me what are the main questions? Tell me the main questions. What's the top 3 questions you get
well,
from?
you know, you've asked some of them. You know, what's it like, you know, for somebody of color to come to University of Iowa? I mean, so we get that type of question.
But you know, not only a person of color, because you get a kid in Georgia. You know, we're based in Georgia. I mean, I was born in Louisville, grew up in California though playing ball. So I had a very liberal, you know, upbringing. You know, I was the only white kid that got to touch the ball. You know, they used to. You know, I didn't. I moved to Northern California, and all the white guys either did drugs or were cowboys, and I couldn't relate. So I hung with all the brothers, you know, and you know, Bootsy Collins and all that. I grew up in that environment. I was very comfortable. Then I go back to the University of Kentucky, and I'm in segregated dorms, you know, in 1977. So it was a shock for me, you know, big shock. But I think people have that mindset, you know, that Iowa's going to be, you know, like Kentucky was in 1977, you know, or something. And I mean, it's not the case here. I got to readjust. He's sitting down now.
Yeah,
So
well,
you want to stay sitting down? That's cool.
yeah, because I have a back issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Standing.
Give us 1 second. Let's reboot. We're down to. Let's